I'm Mike Stevens. I'm 31 years old, and I'm the creator of the true crime podcast called Unsolved Detroit. I started this program 3 years ago, examining unsolved murder cases in Detroit and telling the victims' stories. I had 50,000 regular listeners and released new episodes every week. I had a journalism background, but when print media was dying, I turned to podcasting. Detroit had plenty of unsolved cases, drugs, gang violence, domestic disputes gone wrong. But the cases I was interested in were different. Random victims, no clear motive, cases that still baffled police. My studio was a small room I set up in my basement at home. Professional equipment, soundproofing, live call system. I did live broadcasts on Friday evenings at 8 p.m., taking calls from listeners. The first 2 years went normally. Listeners shared their own theories, provided additional information. Sometimes victim families called to thank me. Standard true crime podcast stuff. But 4 months ago, the night I broadcast episode 87, everything changed. In that episode, I covered the Jennifer Walsh case. In 1995, she was a 23-year-old young teacher. On the night of September 15th, she disappeared while walking home from a bar in downtown Detroit. Her body was found 3 days later, strangled to death in Riverside Park. The police investigation went nowhere. No suspects, no witnesses, no motive. Jennifer's family was devastated, and the case remained. Colda was taking calls from listeners during the live segment when the phone rang. Unsolved Detroit, you're live, I said with my usual greeting. A soft female voice came from the other end. Hi, Mike. I'm Jennifer. Hi, Jennifer. Thanks for calling. Do you have information about tonight's case? Yes, about my murder. It was weird phrasing, but I didn't think much of it. You mean the Jennifer Walsh case? I am Jennifer Walsh. A chill ran down my spine. I'm sorry, what? I've been listening to your show, Mike. You told my story accurately, but there are details you missed. My hands started shaking. This had to be a practical joke. Ma'am, Jennifer Walsh died in 1995. I know, I was there. The voice was perfectly calm. No crazy person vibes, no attention-seeking behavior, just matter of fact. If this is a prank, it's not. Mike, you want to solve my case? I can help. Against my better judgment, I kept listening. What can you tell me? My killer's name is David Morrison. He worked at Murphy's Bar where I was that night. Bartender. He followed me home. I quickly searched online during the call. Murphy's Bar, closed in 1998. No David Morrison in police records. Jennifer, police investigated all bar employees. David used a fake name. His real name is David Kessler. He's still alive, Mike. Still in Detroit. How do you know this? Because I've been watching him for 28 years. The line went silent, then dial tone. Shaking, I finished the episode. Listeners were calling in about the Jennifer caller, some creeped out, some excited, some claiming it was a hoax. But I couldn't shake the feeling. The voice sounded genuine. The next day, I researched David Kessler. I found a record. David Kessler, born 1968, currently living in Dearborn. No criminal record, works construction. It was a crazy idea, but I called the Detroit PD Cold Case Division. Detective Maria Santos handled old cases. Detective Santos, this might sound strange, but I got a tip about the Jennifer Walsh murder from 1995. What kind of tip? A caller claimed the killer was named David Kessler, used to work at Murphy's Bar under a false identity. Santos was silent for a moment. Who's your source? Anonymous caller, but they knew details that weren't public. We'll look into it. A week later, episode 88, a different case. Robert Martinez, 2001. A 34-year-old mechanic shot 3 times outside his apartment. No witnesses, no suspects. During the live segment, the phone rang again. Unsolved Detroit, you're live. A male voice this time. Mike, it's Robert Martinez. My heart stopped. Robert Martinez died in 2001. Yeah, 3 bullets to the chest, I remember. This isn't possible. Mike, you helped Jennifer. Now help me. My killer, he's a cop. What? Detective James Wright. He was taking money from drug dealers. I saw a transaction, tried to blackmail him. Robert, if you're really... Wright planted a gun at the scene to make it look like a gang shooting. But I never owned a gun, Mike. Check ballistics. The bullets came from a police-issued weapon. How do I verify this? Ask Detective Santos. She suspected Wright back then but couldn't prove it. The line went dead. I called Detective Santos immediately. Detective, about the Robert Martinez case from 2001. What about it? Did you ever suspect Detective James Wright? Long pause. How do you know that name? Anonymous tip. They claimed Wright was taking bribes. Martinez tried to blackmail him. Jesus Christ. Wright retired in 2015. We never could prove a connection, but there were suspicions. A pattern was emerging. Dead victims calling the podcast, giving information that could solve their cases. Episode 89, the Lisa Chen case from 2008. A 29-year-old nurse found dead in a hospital parking lot. Apparent robbery gone wrong, but nothing was stolen. A phone call came during the live segment. Mike, this is Lisa Chen. I expected it this time. Lisa, what can you tell me about your murder? It wasn't a robbery. My supervisor, Dr. Patricia Hayes, killed me. Why would a doctor kill you? I discovered she was stealing drugs from the hospital, selling on the black market. When I threatened to report her, she injected me with potassium chloride. That would show up in an autopsy. She falsified the autopsy report. Hayes had access to the morgue, changed the results. How do I prove this? Check her bank records from 2008, large cash deposits, and look for other suspicious deaths at Mercy General during her tenure. These calls were becoming routine. Dead victims providing exact information to solve their own murders. But the strangest call came on episode 92. Mike, this is Amanda Foster. Amanda Foster. I didn't recognize the name. Amanda, which case are you calling about? My case? You haven't covered it yet. When did you die? Last Tuesday, October 15th, 2024. The current date was October 20th. This would be a recent murder. Amanda, if you just died, strangled in my apartment in Corktown. The killer made it look like a break-in, but nothing was stolen. Who killed you? The same person who killed Jennifer, Robert, and Lisa. My blood froze. What? Mike, you're solving old cases. But the killer noticed. He's eliminating witnesses who might have seen something back then. What do you mean? I was a bartender at Murphy's in 1995. I saw Jennifer leave with someone but never told the police. Last week, a man approached me, started asking questions about that night. David Kessler? No, someone else. Someone who's been watching your podcast very carefully. Who? Detective James Wright. My mind was racing. Wright was the cop suspected in the Robert Martinez case, but he had retired. Amanda, Wright would be in his 60s now. Killers don't retire, Mike, and now he knows you're close to exposing him. How do you know all this? When you die violently, you see connections. Wright killed Robert because Robert witnessed a drug deal. But Wright was working with a bigger network. Jennifer saw something she shouldn't have. Lisa discovered the drug operation at the hospital. All connected. all connected. Wright was the middleman between drug dealers and professional killers, cleaning up loose ends. Why are you all calling me? Because we can't rest until the truth comes out. And because Wright's not done. He's coming for you next, Mike. The line went dead. Terrified, I called Detective Santos. Detective, I need protection. What's wrong? I explained everything. The ghost callers, the Wright connection, the Amanda Foster tip. Mike, there's no recent murder victim named Amanda Foster. Check October 15th, Corktown area. Santos called back an hour later. Mike, we found a body matching the description. Amanda Foster, 31, strangled in her apartment. How did you know? I couldn't explain the supernatural callers. Anonymous tip. Mike, this is an active murder investigation. If your source has information, my source isn't available. That night I was paranoid about Wright. I installed security cameras, changed locks, stayed at friends' houses. But Friday came and I had to do episode 93. I decided to expose everything on the live show. Tonight, a special episode. I believe I've uncovered a connection between multiple Detroit murders spanning 30 years. I explained the Wright theory, drug connections, the Amanda Foster revelation. Listeners were fascinated but skeptical. During the call segment, the phone rang. Unsolved Detroit, you're live. A different voice, older, male, menacing, Mike Stevens. Who is this? You know who this is, Detective James Wright. Right, if you're listening. I'm not listening, Mike. I'm watching, outside your house right now. I looked through the basement window. A figure was standing across the street under a streetlight. Middle-aged man, dark clothing. What do you want? Stop the podcast, stop digging into old cases, or what? Or you'll become the subject of a future episode. You killed them all. I cleaned up problems. Jennifer saw a drug transaction had to be eliminated. Robert tried to blackmail me. Lisa discovered the hospital operation. Amanda remembered too much from 1995. Why confess on live radio? Because this is your last episode, Mike. And I want your listeners to know what happens to people who dig too deep. The sound of breaking glass came from upstairs. Wright was inside the house. Listeners, call 911, I shouted into the microphone. James Wright, retired Detroit detective, is in my house. He's a serial killer. I grabbed a baseball bat and ran upstairs. Wright was standing in the living room, gun drawn. Should have minded your own business, Mike. Behind Wright, I saw a figure, a transparent woman in 1990s clothing. Jennifer? I whispered. Wright spun around. What? More figures appeared. Robert Martinez, Lisa Chen, Amanda Foster. All transparent but visible. You see them too? Wright asked, his gun shaking. They want justice, I said. Wright started firing his gun wildly at the ghosts. The bullets passed through them harmlessly. In the confusion, I tackled Wright and wrestled the gun away. Police sirens were approaching. Neighbors had heard the gunshots and called 911. Wright was arrested. In shock, he was confessing everything. They were all there, he kept saying. All of them, watching me. The investigation confirmed the ghost caller's information. Wright was part of a drug network, had killed multiple witnesses over decades. Amanda Foster's murder was fresh evidence. The podcast exploded in popularity after Wright's arrest. Ghosts Solve Own Murders headlines were everywhere, but the calls stopped coming. Jennifer, Robert, Lisa, Amanda, all silent now. Their cases solved, their killer caught in the final episode of the season, dedicated to the victims. I said to listeners, sometimes the dead don't rest until the truth comes out. Sometimes they find ways to speak, even from beyond. If you work in true crime, remember, victims have voices. Sometimes you just need to listen carefully. I still do the podcast, but differently now. More respectful, more focused on victim stories than sensational details. And sometimes, late at night, the phone still rings. New cases, new voices, new victims seeking justice. Because murder may silence voices in life, but in death, some stories demand to be told. Wright's conviction brought closure to 5 families, and it taught me that justice doesn't always come from traditional investigation. Sometimes it comes from beyond the grave, through voices that refuse to be silenced forever.